Welcome to Marianna's Vineleaves. I am Sakis Kazakis. I am Marianna's son. And here we are in Neronia, which is a tiny little village in the northern Greece, in the northern part of Greece. And basically, what we do here is that we grow our vineyards and we cultivate our land, producing all sorts of stuff and actually producing everything and anything that can be produced from a vineyard except wine. So if you're wine lovers, don't come to us. But if you want to explore and see everything that can be produced from a vineyard, then you're at the right place. Back in 1988, my grandfather gave his son and daughter-in-law this vineyard, this exact vineyard. And back at the time, they decided to grow the vineyards, work the land in order to add some income to their household. Along with the grapes come the leaves, and at the time, the grapes were the fashionable thing, something that everybody was doing. And in fact, it was table grapes, so grapes that you eat. So my mother picked the leaves in May and preserved them in a glass jar using the traditional hot filling method, and she preserved some leaves for the winter. Basically, she wanted to have good vine leaves for her kitchen. The thing with vine leaves is that here in Greece and basically all over the Eastern Mediterranean region, we use vine leaves in order to roll dolmades, or stuffed vine leaves with rice and herbs, or in some areas with minced meat. But in any case, what we do here is that we take the vine leaves and we roll them with rice, spring onion, red onion, dill, parsley, and all sorts of herbs, and we make a delicious dish. And we usually consume this in the 40 days before Easter, so it's a fasting dish for the Greek traditional cuisine. The only problem with vine leaves is that they are grown in May and they are consumed in March. So until time traveling is devised, if you want, people need a method to preserve vine leaves for about 8 months or 9. My mother, Marianna, she grew up in her grandmother's kitchen. So she knew how to cook and she knew how to do the traditional Greek recipes and actually Armenian recipes because her mother was Armenian, and apply them in a modern kitchen. So what she did was that she picked some vine leaves in 1988 from the family's vineyards, and she preserved them in the traditional method of preservation, which is basically hot filling. So, and that's how she made her first jars of vine leaves. And then, come March, she cooked the vine leaves that she had harvested for her friends and family, of course. So all of her friends said, "What a great vine leaf! And where can we find these vine leaves in the market?" And this is how she came up with the idea of cultivating the vineyards, but instead of harvesting the grapes, harvest another part of the plant, which is the vine leaf. And this happened at the end of the 80s. Now, at the same time, the former Soviet Union collapsed and all the Eastern Bloc collapsed along with it. And this created a big flow of very cheap and inexpensive, of very cheap grapes. And this is when the grapes market collapsed at the same time. And this was another incentive for my mother, my father, and my brother to focus on the vine leaves. Now, at the same time, my brother graduated from the American Farm School, and where he learned about the organic methods of farming. And this came at the perfect time, in fact, because in 1992 we incorporated as a company and we started doing business, selling our vine leaves to the market, and at the same time we started the exports as well. So at the American Farm School, my brother Pangalos was taught about what we nowadays call the circular economy. So basically, he was taught of how to take advantage of everything that uh, a corp can give without wasting anything. So he thought, okay, we're taking advantage of the vine leaf. Let's see what else we can do from the vineyards. I mean, we're cultivating the land anyway. It's a full year job. And actually, vineyards are one of the most demanding crops that anyone, a farmer, can do. So what has happened since is that we start cultivating our land and we start harvesting in May with the vine leaves. We want the vine leaves to be relatively round, not too big, not too small, but the most of it, we want them to be tender. The reason why we want vine leaves to be tender is that they are used to create dolmades, or the stuffed vine leaves with rice. And it's really not pleasant to, to eat a stuffed vine leaf and then chew for about 5 minutes on a hard, not so chewable vine leaf. So we want vine leaves to be tender, not too big, not too small. We don't want them to have big veins on the back because the end result is not pleasant. For this reason, we have grafted all of our vineyards with the Sultana variety. Now, Sultanas, they make the small grapes without any seeds or rocks, maybe some of you call it. At the same time, they give the best vine leaf that there can be. So we have turned all of our vineyards onto Sultanas. And this is how we get the best vine leaf that there is. At the same time, we have chosen to have the same people harvesting the leaves every year. And this is the 20th year that we have the same people harvesting the leaves. So as a result of this, the experienced collected through all these years, the percent of leaves rejected during the processing phase is less than 1% of what we collect here in the field. So we start at the end of April, maybe beginning of May, and we harvest the leaves. This is the best leaves that there can be because they are tender, they're big, they're nice, they smell nice. It's the perfect vine leaf for the perfect dolmadaki. At the end of May, we take a break from collecting the leaves and we cut the vine tops. So it's this part of the vineyard. Now we do this because we want the vineyard to stop growing towards the sun and we want them to start making shades or a shade for the grapes that are going to come in a bit. And we do a very nice pickle out of them using our own vinegar and sea salt. And actually, we are the only ones making those pickled vine tops. It's a product that has been awarded with Great Taste Awards in the past and is exported as are our vine leaves and our dolmades all over the world. Then we continue with the vine leaves up until the end of June, maybe beginning of July, always depending on the weather. We produce a total of 150,000 jars of vine leaves every year, and we export them to 20 countries around the world. As the year goes by, at the beginning of August, maybe a little later, maybe a little earlier, always depending on the weather, it's time to harvest the grapes. Now, the grapes, as I said before, they are of the Sultana variety, which means that you cannot make a wine of it. Actually, you can make a lousy wine. That's why we don't do any wine. And they are very sweet and without stones inside. So, what do we do with the grapes? First of all, we sell them as fresh fruit in organic farmers markets in Thessaloniki, which is the nearby city. We also make a marmalade out of the grapes, or jam, if you will prefer the term. We make a confiture, so it's another form of preserving the fruit with lots of sugar. Having said that, and we also make a grape preserve, so we use much less sugar, and the fruit stays as it was, basically on the vine, on the grapevine. And people use this to make their sweets and to make, for example, a cheesecake with a grape topping. And it's delicious. We go on with the grapes, and at the end of the harvesting, we collect them in a massive way, if you want, without cherry picking them, and we make a vinegar out of it. Some of the grapes we sun dry and we make raisins. I'm sure that you've all had raisins in the past. So, raisins are very nutritive, and it used to be back in the day before refrigeration was invented. So, it used to be a very good source of iron, vitamin D, and other useful nutrients throughout the winter. Uh, Raisins were very popular with people climbing mountains in the winter. So we make some grapes and some raisins. We also take some of the grapes and we press them and we take their must. Now, what is must? Must is the grape juice, but vineyard growers, they like to use a special term for everything. Hence, grape juice equals must. Now, perhaps some of you have heard the word must in the past because mustard is made with grape must. The original mustard recipe is using grape must. So we take the must and we cook it very slowly at 50 degrees Celsius for about 24 hours. And we take the grape syrup that we call petimesi. Petimesi is very sweet. It feels and it looks like maple syrup that you're all very aware of, but it tastes different and it has other kinds of nutrients. Now, we also use some of the grapes, some of the must, in fact, to make our own vinegar. Now, vinegar is something that we use almost everywhere in our salads, in our food. Our vinegar is very special because we age it in oak barrels previously used for wine. So it has an even more special taste and smell. Now, and yet another product that we make from our vineyards is tsipuro. Tsipuro is the local version of moonshine. It's not that illegal. It's legal nowadays. So we take the must and we let it and we distill it in order to take this alcoholic beverage that Greeks consume in quite big quantities. Another word for tsipuro is raki. Another word is eau de vie that some of you may have heard. In any case, it's a distilled grape juice. And it's delicious. We do two versions of those. One is with anise seed and the other one is without. It depends on the taste that everyone has. Now, tsipuro is produced, distilled, in fact, at the end of November when it's really cold outside. In January, we prune the vineyards so as to make space for the new branches to come out in the spring. So we cut this part of the vineyard. You can see here this branch. And usually we make grafts for the next season, for the next vineyard to plant. But we have so many of them that we actually give them away to people who want to make their spit lamb in Greek Easter. So here in Greece, in Easter, we take the whole lamb and we do it in a giant skewer, if you want, and we bake it very slowly in a charcoal fire. And people use vineyard sticks like this one to give it a special scent and a special taste. And it's great. You need to be here in Greece for Easter and actually taste it. Now, has anybody counted how many products we make out of the vineyards? No? Let's recapitulate. So we started in May with the vine leaves and the vine tops. Then the grapes are ready, that we sell as fresh fruit. Then we do the grape jam, the grape confiture, the grape preserve. We do raisins. We do vinegar, tsipuro, the must, the cooked must, and the dolmades. So it's 12 different products coming from the same root, the same vineyard, but not a single drop of wine. So this is actually the first packaging facility that we ever created. This room here was the first factory where we actually pasteurized our vineyards. Now it's our showroom, and this is where we welcome about, well, pro-COVID, about 2 to 3 thousand visitors every year. As Marianna's is a very extrovert company and exporting to about 22 countries around the world. There is a lot of interest for people to come and visit and see what we are doing and how we do it, and actually taste our products such as the dolmades and the pies, the cheese pies or spanakopita that we say in Greece, which is a spin-off for us. So what happened with the pies is that at some point, about 10 years ago, some Greek journalists visited in order to do articles on Halkidiki and what is actually going around here and what can people do when in Halkidiki. So my mother made a pie for them, baked a pie for them, and just to treat them along with the coffee. And at the end of the visit, one of the journalists said, "So where can I find this in Athens?" And this is when my mother had this moment of inspiration, if you want, and she put together a new company with three of her friends from the village, and they started making pies. So what happens now is that our company, the old, experienced marketing savvy company, actually buys all the ingredients, sends them to these four ladies from the village, and they make the pies, handmade pies with the best material there can be, package them, send them back to us, and we sell them to the world. This has been a brand new business for us, and it has created 7 new jobs in the village. And mind you, this is a very small village with only 400 inhabitants. So it has created a new company, a new source of income for the village, and it has helped our exports and our presence in the market. We currently produce 11 different tastes of pies, be it a single spanakopita or a feta cheese pie or a kaseri cheese pie, or even a pumpkin pie that is quite sweet and very unusual if you want. Along with our dolmades, which are also exported all over the world, including the United States, and of course the vine tops, our cooked must, and the vine leaves themselves. Sometimes I think about it and how a housewife practically started this business with the vine leaves, and then another business with the pies, with your friends this time. Not being young, but being very, very active and very thoughtful. And of course, it's my mother, so I can't really say anything bad about her. But the truth is that I think it's quite rare that a woman from a remote village in Kharkiv, not the not the center of the world, in fact, has started two businesses and has made her village the epicenter of her activity. Because not only our products are nowadays exported to such distant places as Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Japan, and of course most of the European Union countries and the United States. But apart from that, this is a place where many people visit in order to see what we are doing and taste our products. And this is a long way to come for a housewife having raised her two kids and searching for a meaning of life and an activity to fill the empty nest, if you want, which was the case of my mother back at the end of the 80s. It's quite impressive. So, thank you for joining us today here in Neronia at Marianna's, and I hope that when this whole thing is over and people can travel again and visit places, if you ever find yourself around here at this corner of the world, you're more than welcome to visit. Until then, Yamas!